Behind every battle line, behind every blood-stained uniform, lay secrets no historian ever recorded, private diaries burned deliberately, love letters buried deep, intimate moments lost forever to time. Tonight, discover what soldiers and civilians truly felt when cannon fire finally faded and darkness fell. You've seen the monuments, walked the battlefields, studied the heroic paintings. But what happened when the bedroom door closed? When husbands confessed fears to wives? When forbidden lovers met in moonlight? The Civil War's deepest truths remained hidden. Until now. I am Mary Chestnut, writing in my secret diary. We live in a world of wounds no one can see. For 4 years, millions carried burdens too intimate, too painful, too scandalous to share publicly. These are their stories. These are our truths. Confederate soldier James writes home, "My dearest Sarah, I cannot tell the men what terrifies me most. Not death itself, but never touching your face again. Last night, I dreamed of your hair, woke weeping like a child. Please, tell absolutely no one." Sarah reads his letter in flickering candlelight, pressing it desperately to her chest. Her own secret remains unwritten. She's 3 months pregnant. He left before she knew. Should she tell him now, burden him with joy he might never witness? The choice torments her. In northern towns, women gather for sewing circles. Their needles move rhythmically while tongues share what husbands must never hear. Susan confesses her relief when Thomas enlisted. Freedom from his violent temper feels sinful, yet liberating beyond anything she imagined possible. You might judge her harshly. Consider this: 1 in 5 Civil War wives experienced domestic violence before their husbands departed for war. The war freed thousands of women from private terrors no court acknowledged, no society dared discuss openly. Plantation mistress Elizabeth discovers letters hidden beneath her husband's mahogany desk. Another woman's perfume still lingers faintly, but the writer isn't white. The handwriting belongs to someone she knows intimately, her enslaved lady's maid, Celia. Betrayal cuts both ways now. Celia had borne 3 of his children in silence, hidden away from polite society. Elizabeth feels rage, then unexpected sympathy. 2 women betrayed by one man's appetites. In that moment, something shifts between them. Not friendship exactly, but recognition of shared suffering. Union Captain William Porter keeps a photograph tucked in his breast pocket. Not his wife's portrait, but Lieutenant Thomas Mackenzie's. They served together, shared tents, and something far deeper that Victorian society condemned as criminal perversion. Love existed anyway. How many others loved this way? Historians estimate thousands conceal same-sex relationships within military brotherhood. Intimate letters burned before death. Photographs destroyed by ashamed families. Only fragments survive, whispers of what existed, beyond acceptable boundaries. History erased them deliberately. I am Anna, 17 years old, lying about my age, binding my breasts tight, enlisting as Andrew. For 2 years, I fight alongside men who never suspect my sex. At night, I guard my secret desperately while longing for home, womanhood, truth. Why did women disguise themselves as soldiers? Some sought adventure, others followed husbands or brothers into battle. My reason remained private: escape from an arranged marriage to a man 3 times my age. War offered freedom impossible in peacetime. I took it. In Richmond, actress Pauline Cushman performs brilliantly on stage while gathering Confederate military secrets. Her true loyalty lies with the Union. After shows, officers visit her dressing room. Sharing intelligence while seeking intimate favors, she skillfully evades with practiced charm. Espionage and seduction intertwined constantly during the war. Rose O'Neill, Greenhow used romantic liaisons to extract Union battle plans. Belle Boyd charmed officers at 19. War made female sexuality a weapon. Intimacy a strategic tool wielded with calculated precision. But consider Belle's private journal. They call me seductress, but I've never been kissed with genuine love, only manipulation. I trade false intimacy for military information, and wonder if I'll ever know real affection. This war steals everything, even romance itself. Soldier diaries reveal unexpected truths historians ignored. Men wrote poetry to each other. shared blankets on frozen nights, washed each other's wounds tenderly. Physical intimacy between soldiers, whether platonic or romantic, remains history's most carefully erased chapter. We remember it anyway. Confederate Private Daniel writes, "John held me while I wept after Shiloh. His arms felt safer than any earthwork. I love him beyond what words or propriety permits. If God condemns this tenderness, then heaven seems cruel indeed. I cannot repent this." In contraband camps, formerly enslaved families reunite after decades of forced separation. Husbands find wives sold away 20 years prior. Parents discover children stolen in infancy. These intimate reunions, these tears, this reclaimed love, no white newspaper bothered recording them properly. Harriet Jacobs spent 7 years hiding in her grandmother's attic crawl space, 9 feet long, 7 feet wide, 3 feet high at most. Escaping slavery meant sacrificing her body, her health, her dignity completely. Freedom demanded unimaginable private suffering. She paid willingly. Think about her impossible choice: remain enslaved to avoid her master's sexual advances, or flee and never touch her children again. Thousands of enslaved women faced similar impossible decisions daily. Their intimate agonies, invisible to history's grand narratives about battlefield glory. Northern nurse Clara Barton witnessed horrors that haunted her nightmares forever. She wrote privately, "I held dying boys begging. For their mothers, I kissed foreheads growing cold. I became the intimate stranger who shepherded souls toward darkness. This burden breaks me nightly." Female nurses confronted Victorian society's boundaries daily. They touched male bodies intimately, washing, bandaging, holding dying strangers. Critics called them improper, even scandalous whores. Yet thousands persisted anyway, discovering strength and purpose previously denied them completely by peacetime propriety. In battlefield hospitals, morphine addiction began silently, spreading like invisible disease. Soldiers discovered opium's power to numb physical agony and emotional trauma. Doctors prescribed it liberally, unaware they were creating a generation's hidden dependency that would haunt post-war America. Private letters reveal this hidden crisis. "I cannot sleep without laudanum anymore. Cannot face morning without morphine. My wife knows nothing about it. I hide bottles everywhere. The war ended, but something inside me never stopped screaming constantly." Confederate widow Margaret faces her own private war, managing her plantation alone while pregnant again with her 4th child. Slaves have fled northward, crops rotting unharvested, creditors demanding immediate payment. At night, she contemplates desperate choices: remarriage to someone she despises or losing everything. War forced women into unprecedented power and crushing vulnerability simultaneously. They managed businesses, farms, entire estates successfully. Yet, without men's legal protection, they remained propertyless, voteless, defenseless before the law. Independence came wrapped in institutional powerlessness. Young soldiers wrote home describing their first experience killing another human being. These confessions remain devastating. "I shot him at dawn, watched him die slowly. He looked exactly like my brother. Now I cannot pray, cannot eat properly. Mother, what have I become?" Post-traumatic stress disorder had no name then. Men called it soldier's heart, or nostalgia, or simple cowardice. Wives dealt with husbands who woke screaming, who flinched at sudden sounds, who stared emptily at nothing. Intimate relationships shattered under wounds invisible yet profound. In northern cities, prostitution flourished near military camps. Desperate women sold intimacy for survival. Soldiers bought fleeting comfort before possible death. Disease spread rapidly through both groups. Moral reformers condemned the women, while ignoring the economic desperation and male demand fueling it. One prostitute wrote anonymously, "Judge me if you wish. My children needed bread desperately. My husband died at Gettysburg. Society offered no respectable employment paying enough for survival. So I sell what men desperately want, what society pretends doesn't exist anywhere." Meanwhile, on southern plantations, enslaved women continued suffering sexual violence from owners. Freedom's promise remained distant as ever. Their bodies remained unprotected by law, morality, or marriage vows. Only the war's eventual outcome would offer hope for bodily autonomy, finally. I am Celia. He came to my cabin every night for years. I bore his children. His wife knew. Everyone knew. But no one could stop him. I was property. My consent was irrelevant. War seemed my only possible salvation from him. Union soldier Marcus fell in love with a Confederate woman while occupying her Tennessee town. They met secretly, sharing stolen hours despite opposing loyalties fiercely. Their intimacy transcended politics completely, yet society would condemn their connection as treasonous on both sides equally. How many secret romances crossed battle lines? Letters hint at dozens, perhaps hundreds more. Some ended in marriage after the war. Others ended in heartbreak, betrayal, or execution for treason. Love recognized no borders that politics desperately tried maintaining through violence. Children experienced their own hidden trauma. Sons watched fathers leave, never returning home. Daughters witnessed mothers' silent grief nightly. Families fractured by loyalty divided households permanently. Brothers fought brothers. Intimate family bonds tore apart under ideological pressure and political hatred. I am Emma, 10 years old. Father fights for the Union. Uncle fights for the Confederacy. Grandmother won't speak father's name anymore. Mother cries when she thinks we're sleeping. I pray both men die so everyone stops fighting. Is that wicked? War forced children into premature adulthood overnight. Boys became family providers at 12. Girls managed entire households at 14 alone. Innocence became an unaffordable luxury. Childhood ended abruptly, replaced by responsibility and loss far beyond their young years or understanding. In prisoner of war camps, men formed intense bonds born from shared suffering. They nursed each other through disease, starvation, and despair. These intimate friendships often lasted lifetimes afterward, yet few openly acknowledged the emotional depth of such connections publicly. Andersonville's survivor Jonathan wrote, "David saved my life repeatedly, shared his meager rations daily, held me during fever. I loved him more deeply than any woman I've known. After the war, I never saw him again. That loss haunts me still." Widows face societal pressure to remarry quickly, regardless of their true feelings. Mourning became a luxury few could afford long. Some women submitted reluctantly to hasty unions with strangers. Others chose poverty over remarriage, treasuring their brief independence despite hardship. You might wonder how people maintained intimacy amid such chaos. They wrote letters obsessively, cherished photographs, saved locks of hair in lockets. These tiny private rituals of connection sustained hope when physical presence became impossible. Love found ways to survive. Confederate nurse Kate Cumming described cleaning soldiers' most intimate wounds, holding them during amputations without anesthesia. Her diary reveals the profound emotional toll. "I've become both mother and stranger to dying boys. This intimacy with death changes you forever, completely." Medical care forced unprecedented physical intimacy between strangers. Doctors examined bodies without anesthesia. Nurses witnessed male nakedness daily. Victorian modesty collapsed under medical necessity. These experiences transformed thousands of women's understanding of propriety and possibility forever. In Washington, Mary Todd Lincoln struggled with private demons few understood: depression, anxiety, paranoid episodes, exacerbated by her son's death and her husband's assassination. Her intimate suffering became public spectacle, her grief weaponized by political enemies seeking advantage. Mental illness carried enormous stigma. Families hid relatives in attics or sent them to horrific asylums. Women especially faced institutionalization for behaviors men could exhibit freely. Mary's eventual commitment revealed how easily female grief became classified as insanity. Slave marriages held no legal recognition whatsoever. Couples jumped the broom without protection from forced separation. When freedom came, thousands traveled enormous distances seeking spouses and children sold away years earlier. These reunions embodied love's persistence against impossible odds. I am Jacob. I walked 300 miles searching for my wife Hannah, sold 15 years ago. Found her with a new husband, believing me dead. That moment, joy, heartbreak, confusion, no words capture adequately. Slavery had stolen our entire lives together. Biracial children born from sexual violence faced impossible identities. Neither white nor fully black, by society's cruel classifications. Some mothers loved them fiercely despite everything. Others struggled with complicated feelings toward children conceived in trauma. These intimate realities remain largely unspoken today. Soldiers collected mourning photographs, images of dead soldiers displayed at home. Families kept hair jewelry, wrote letters to deceased loved ones. These intimate rituals of grief helped survivors process losses that came too frequently, too devastating to bear normally. Union soldier Michael's wife Sarah gave birth alone while he fought at Antietam. She nearly died in childbirth. No one informed him until 3 weeks later. He wrote desperately, "I should have been there beside her. My guilt overwhelms duty now. How many fathers missed their children's births? How many mothers died alone? War separated families during life's most vulnerable moments. Private anguish of absence shaped every intimate milestone. Births, deaths, illnesses, faced without expected support or comfort. Confederate deserters faced execution if caught, yet thousands fled anyway. Why? Love conquered fear. Men chose wives and children over abstract causes. These private decisions to prioritize family over nation went unrecorded in official histories celebrating sacrifice. One deserter explained before his execution, "They call me coward. I call myself father. My children needed me alive more than the Confederacy needed me dead. I'd make the same choice again without hesitation. Family is my only country." Interracial intimacy increased during occupation periods. Northern soldiers formed relationships with Southern women, including formerly enslaved women. Some connections were exploitative. Others grew into genuine marriages. Society condemned all of them with equal vehemence and racial prejudice. In Sherman's path through Georgia, civilians faced private terrors. Women hid valuables in intimate places, jewelry sewn into corsets, coins hidden internally. Some faced assault by soldiers from both sides. These violations remained whispered about, never officially documented anywhere. War normalized intimate violence against women everywhere. Rape became a weapon of conquest, a spoil of war. Confederate and Union soldiers both committed atrocities they justified through military necessity. Victims rarely spoke publicly, silenced by shame society forced upon them. Post-war veterans struggled with intimacy. Some couldn't touch their wives without flashbacks. Others suffered erectile dysfunction from wounds or psychological trauma. These private difficulties went unacknowledged. Marriages dissolved silently, partners unable to name or address the problems destroying them. Elizabeth Van Lew ran a Union spy ring from Richmond while maintaining her social standing. She visited prisoners, gathering intelligence. Her private lesbian relationship with another woman remained hidden even from fellow spies. Multiple layers of secrecy protected her survival. How many queer people existed in Civil War America? Historians will never know precisely. Society's violent enforcement of heteronormativity ensured most evidence was destroyed. Only fragments remain: coded letters, suggestive photographs, careful euphemisms hinting at love that dared not speak. Soldiers wrote final letters before battles, sealed and saved. Many read, "If you're reading this, I'm dead. Know that you were my last thought." Our intimate moments, stealing kisses behind the barn, dancing in moonlight. These memories sustained me until death. War's end brought relief, but intimacy didn't resume easily. 4 years changed everyone fundamentally. Husbands returned as strangers. Wives had become independent. Children didn't recognize fathers. Families struggled rebuilding relationships that war had fundamentally transformed forever. What the history books omit reveals more than what they include. Private letters burned, diaries destroyed, intimate truths buried deep. But fragments remain, enough to recognize the humanity war tried extinguishing. Behind every statistic lived someone who loved, feared, desired, suffered. You've learned tonight what classrooms never teach: the Civil War. It wasn't just battles and politics. It was also forbidden love, hidden pregnancies, secret addictions, and private agonies. These intimate stories demand remembering precisely because society worked hard to forget them. Perhaps history's greatest lesson isn't about grand strategies or political ideologies. Perhaps it's simpler. During humanity's darkest hours, people still loved desperately, hoped privately, and maintained their intimate connections despite overwhelming forces trying to destroy everything tender inside them. That persistence, that endures.